It's a pleasure to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself and share a bit about your background?
Pleasure is mine. I'm 29. I've been into security, I think, for the past 7, 8 months, something like that. I still have a full-time job. I'm working as a manager I manage people, developers, let's say that way. I'm a developer myself before that.
And how did you end up Web3 security from being a manager? What brought
Uh,
you in? Like, how did you find out about this field?
Yeah, why I'm into security, I don't know how to phrase it. When I got into management, and I still love that, don't take me wrong, but you just have to deal with a lot of stuff that's not controllable by you. And I still miss contributing and breaking stuff on my own. I probably took that decision too early. I still want to do a lot of stuff on my own. That's the best way to phrase it. So yeah, I just needed to keep myself busy, and as like I cannot take like the most fancy features where I work at, because obviously I'm going to be the bottleneck, because nobody's going to wait me for like all the meetings that I have and non-technical bullshit that I have to deal with. But yeah, and maybe another thing is that I'm rather competitive and ambitious, and it's tough for me to swallow that people I work at do not share they have the potential to do that, but they do not share the passion, which is not a bad thing. That's a problem with me and my expectations. That's perfectly fair. It's just that a good example is why I love. I was thinking I'm in love with security, and in fact I love security. But what I really love about it is like the competition, the leaderboards. For example, private audits are nice. You have like I'm making very good cash, but they're not as fancy or like motivating for me than competitive audits. That's probably a reason I'm gonna slow down the private audits. I'm just booked for like the next month and a bit, and from then on, I'm just gonna do some code arena because that's where my true joy lies, right?
That's so interesting. So, for you, the competition itself is the major driving factor. So, like,
Yeah,
you want to win, and that's it.
yeah. I want to win, and I like feeling. It's weird to say it, but I like feeling miserable when I see like I didn't do a good job. This space is very good at giving you reality checks. Like you suck, you need to do better, and you cannot slow down. Other people are gonna get ahead of you. So that's probably the first thing I like about security and what got me here.
Yeah, that's super interesting. When you started, not that long ago,
Yeah,
I remember you were reading a lot of reports,
yeah.
and now I imagine you're doing something entirely different to keep progressing your skills. Can you talk a little bit about what was the change in your mindset, the things you were doing when you got started, and the things you're doing now?
Awesome question. I So what I did when I was getting started is like I thought, oh my god, that's super hard. I mean, these guys must be like great hackers, which of course there's that portion of the game too. But in fact, like a lot of the vulnerabilities or bugs, whatever word you want to use for them, are logical errors like bad state transitions, which are a very rare occasion is going to be like a finding which is the level of paradigm CDF, for example. So I was like, I need to prepare myself the best I can. So when I get in, I'm going to be able to like do a good job. So it's fair to say I wasted more time than needed in like doing too much CDFs. I completed like either node, down vulnerability 5, version 2, version 3 released. I completed the 2, capture the flag. A lot of, I think it was Mr. Steal Your Crypto, a lot of CDFs. If I take the time back, probably it made me happy at the time, but probably slowed down my progress to some extent. And I read like reports mindlessly. I like, if I reflect on it right now, it's building a bot on called Arena. Like you check the vulnerabilities that are found by 10 more people and you try to pattern match them after that. I guess that's fine for building confidence. Like, yeah, I found that one. But in terms of value, I think whoever that has barely, I mean, if you have a developer experience before that, just learn Solidity and get into contests. And like, if you want to read reports, read the report of the contest you participated in. And for fancy hacks, OpenZeppelin it has a list of vulnerabilities, the findings of the year, etc. Immunify write-ups. If you want to read fancy stuff, go there. Or like real-world exploits. We have plenty of these.
Right. So you just said that reading the reports built your confidence, but didn't help you progress as fast. So when did you start noticing a shift in how fast you were progressing? What did you do differently?
I practiced. I practiced. That's pretty much it. I had a huge issue with like code bases, like huge code bases. Even though I've seen huge code bases, like different things, like oh, that's 10,000 lines of code base. These guys are, let's say, GMX, Notional, whatever. I mean, they must know better, and they know good enough, to a good enough level, but they don't know enough to have everything set in stone from the first iteration.
Yeah, and huge code bases have room for more errors as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And how did you manage to tackle that challenge of being able to handle big code bases?
I don't. I mean, the best way to say it, I just kept feeling miserable every single day I practiced, and I got over it with time. I don't think there's a replacement for that, unfortunately. Just grind through it. That's pretty much it.
I think that's a perspective that we don't hear people talking about often enough. It's always all about the payouts and finding the exciting bugs, but rarely you hear people talking about just the miserable times where you're just grinding it out and you just have to suffer through it.
Yeah, I think I asked. I don't know, maybe last month I think I've read something somewhere or written or listened to a podcast. I'm not sure where I heard it. Somebody was like, I get that he could audit like 200 NSWOC an hour. And I was like, how do they do that? And Alex was like, pattern matching, and you get it good at that by grinding it out. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's no shortcut or other answer about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of good security researchers get a lot of DMs asking, how do I get good at auditing? What is the best way to get good at auditing? And there's no rocket science in that sense. You just have to practice, right?
I'm trying to find my conversation with a guy. I don't know his Twitter. I think is Fate, something like that. I think he works in Sigma Prime. Yeah, here he is. So I think I've never mentioned that, but I just got to my mind. So I'm looking at my chat February with him. Is like, how do I overcome like the anxiety? And he's like, you just get in the rip that you just get in the reps until it becomes easy, and you serve yourself finding vulnerabilities like all the others. And I just probably followed that. That's all. I mean, conversations like that helped me a lot, like just because I talked through them. I'm just like that. But
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So, would you say that one of the biggest pitfalls for beginners is to try and reading too much content and doing too many CTFs and not practicing enough?
yeah, I would say that definitely. Another good example also is like, or a good point, I think is also they kind of, everybody, not only like only beginners, but me at some point earlier too, assumed, for example, an audit that had a protocol, apologies, that had let's say 5 audits before that is going to be kind of bug free. That's pretty much I think never the case. And actually, if you find a vulnerability in a contest that the protocol had like 5 audits before that, if you find one, it could be like a sole finding. And I think I just saw Luxo's contest, the top guy, I think he got like 44K, and the contest had just 10 medium risk findings, and 8 of them were unique. So yeah,
Oh yeah, that's hectic.
yeah. And they had like plenty of audits. Even Trust, who is absolute legend, audited them, meaning there's always stuff to come after.
Yeah, it's important to remember that all audits are time bound, right?
Yeah,
So there's only a certain amount of vulnerabilities that you can report given a certain amount of time. And depending on the code base, there's just not enough time to track all of them down. And
exactly.
even after the fixes, there might be new ones. So there's always things.
Absolutely. I mean, agreed.
What is your auditing approach like at the moment?
Oh, I went through, I don't know, several iterations. I was asking and reading everybody, how do you do stuff? So I tried like diagramming, top down, bottom up, user flows, and I've settled with 2 approaches depending if it's a contest or if it's a private audit. So if it's a contest, since it's like limited, for example, it could be 4,000 lines of code for like 5 days or 7 days, something like that. And code is a norm. You can't go through all that. So if it's a contest, I pick the most juicy parts, that money flow, deposits, rewards, anything that could lead to some kind of flows. And from then on, I just follow up a flow and only go through it. Keep in mind, I haven't really applied that. I only participated in like 2 contests the past, I think, 2 months. And it was like a very limited amount of time, no more than 6, 8 hours a contest. I was just trying to try that approach because I tried it in private audits for now. Whereas in private audits, I first go top down to get myself comfortable with the code base, identify where I want to dig deeper, and like start digging these user flows. I just draw them and follow them pretty much individually.
And what do you mean exactly when you say top down? Do you mean first you go like you have a rough general sense of the code and then you dig into more specific parts of it?
Good question, and definitely is clarification. I just opened the file, let's say, and go line by line from the start of the file to the end of the file. Note stuff, like I heavily take notes in the instead. I don't like the audit like tags everybody uses, the inline bookmarks. I I use Miro for a lot of stuff, so I take my notes there. It's a long story. We can go over that too. But yeah, I take a lot of notes. And then when I finish with going through one by each file, I'm like, okay, I want to go through these 5 flows in the next, let's say, 2 days, just an example. And yeah, I think that's what I mean by top down. And by individual flows, I have two 27-inch monitors, but they're still not enough when I, for example, want to drill down from the start of a function code to the bottom, right? So if I open all of these like VS Code windows, it gets super tight. I just have to constantly scroll left and right to see where I am. So what I do is it might sound crazy, but I just copy the code into Miro and that kind of function, let's say. And then I order them like a trees, like the function call and like the one that's after it goes down. And I just order them like that. Just makes way more better sense for my brain. And yeah, that's why I take the notes in Miro, because it wouldn't make sense to go back and forth with VS Code all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool approach to sort of like make your own tree basically. You just
Yeah,
like get his execution flow and
yeah,
you just make like so you
yeah,
can read it like in one go.
yeah.
And while doing that, do you usually do it as you read or when you're looking for flows? How's your process of note taking?
Yeah. So let me just try to order it in my head first. So I don't do it the first time I look at the function because it's essentially going to be doing two things at the same time. And I try to avoid that because I have a very bad habit of doing it. So I first read it, read the whole contract, let's say, and that's the first top-down iteration. And when I'm done with all of that's when I try to, for example, I'm just going to use a very dumb example, ERC20 token. I read the whole contract and then I start copying. Let's say transfer is an external function, is going to call the internal function underscore transfer, and I start copying all of these in Miro. I think I can give you an example that a screenshot, or I can even share the board with you. And while I take these snippets into Miro, I start noting stuff. Okay, just for a dump example would be the recipient cannot be a zero address. It's going to revert if the amount is zero. Can only be called by owners. Has no slippage check, for example. When I have the notes after that, and I have the flow and the notes, then I start drawing. For example, I see the same variable that is used in like three different places. I underscore that with a Miro pencil, or I just connect them with a wine or something like that. So I'm gonna be able to figure what I was thinking yesterday when I look at that tomorrow. And any potential stuff that I see like as a question or a vulnerability, because the first few days I don't even think about vulnerabilities though. I'm like, I want to understand that very well. All the questions and potential bugs go into like a GitHub repo where I'm having a conversation with myself. Could that happen? And then the next comment is like it's an issue. Like for example, can I become an owner of the contract? And then the comment is, maybe I could if XYZ. The next comment is, no, you're dumb. That cannot happen at all. So yeah, I think I'm trying not to go too overboard, but that's
Yeah, no, I think that's super valuable insight into how people work differently. I think the mirror approach in creating your own tree, it's a great way to go about it because things can get really messy when you have like 5,000 tabs open and you're trying to keep track of the execution flow, like switching tabs. So I think that approach is great actually. And why do you use GitHub instead of just like another note-taking app?
because I forked Spearbit's audit report template and I adapted that to my audit reports, and it's very convenient for me to have everything at once. The GitHub repo is a single source of truth for the vulnerabilities, for the questions, for my entire thought process. So yeah, I just like to. Another note taken up is going to be like additional thing to think about, and I try to keep as few as possible because even the current setup is overboard, and I'd rather not use something else. I went through several iterations. I used Todoist. I don't know if you know that application for
Hmm.
like I pretty much run my life with Todoist. Tried to like put the auditing process there too. It sucked. Didn't work at all. It's like sleeping and doing other stuff in your bedroom at the same time. So not a good idea. So yeah, just try stuff. A lot of people are like, should I do it that way or another way? I don't know. Just waste time and figure it for your own. For example, with diagramming, I'm just gonna go off topic for a second. I tried so many stuff, so many things. I saw the PowerPoint diagrams approach. I saw the Mermaid JS approach. Mermaid JS is nice, but if you have like a little bit of more contracts, you get like over the place connections and arrows drying everywhere. And I then tried an application, or I think it's the right word is application, a structurizer. It's like, again, a DSL, which is like for software architecture. And it's nice, it's very good, but it's too much time. And I still, what I walked at that point is, okay, I have a diagram, I have that contract, I have these state variables there, but I still need to read the code. So I find myself like going back and forth between VS Code and the diagram. VS Code, the diagram. I have 25 tabs and the diagram. And it just didn't work for me. I probably wasted like 2 weeks to figure that it didn't work for me, but now I at least know. So pretty much everything I do is like that.
Yeah, I think everyone is gonna have their different ideal workflow,
Yeah.
right? And for some people, that works pretty well when they're going back and forth from diagram to code. But for me as well, I think that doesn't work too well because all the context switching, those microseconds where you're switching tabs and look, you just stumble upon yourself multiple times.
Yeah.
For example, I like using Notion. I have my little template, and that works well for me.
Yeah.
And I think Notion as well could be a great resource because it allows you flexibility to try and build whatever works for you and allows you to try different things without having to totally switch an application, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Have you ever tried Notion?
I use Coda. I don't know if Coda, it's like, it's Notion on steroids, pretty much. But yeah, I just use it to run my life. Everything that I need to keep track of, like subscriptions, expenses. Pretty much my whole content management system is in Coda, like schedule, potential things that I want to write about. Everything is there. But it just didn't work for me to put my audit process there, like the logistics for quoting and communication with customers, like a CRM that's there, but I'd rather like, keep them separate. Like, so
Yeah. So, what other tools do you use in your stack? How does your tool stack work in full? So, we have Miro for note taking, obviously VS Code for reading the code. What about communication with the clients or even auditing itself?
yeah, let's just split them each because I think that's going to be like best. So a disclaimer: I love Obsidian. Of course, unfortunately, it's not working for a lot of stuff I want to do. So I'm very table based. I like tables and like ordering them and displaying them at different places. So that's the core and Notion approach. So I use Obsidian as a markdown editor pretty much. I write stuff there and I just delete it after that because it's sexy enough for me. So that's just about the writing of the reports. I use Raycast heavily. I have more than 1,000 snippets, I think, and each snippet is like, for example, SHL is going to be like security high label, which is going to be I'm just going to send you what I mean. It's like a red badge, which is an image of high. Like that's going to be a red badge of high findings. So I use Raycast a lot for repeatable stuff that I write. Even my emails, like best regards, my name is like underscore BR. Pretty much everything I repeat. In any templates that comes to your mind are with Raycast.
Before we go ahead, can
Yeah.
you give a brief explanation of Raycast is?
Raycast is an application for Mac that is a replacement for Spotlight. It's it has a lot of it makes like the Spotlight that is the native Mac command and space searcher something that way more powerful. For example, if I open the Raycast and write R, I get all my recent VS Code projects. So I just open them like that. If I open it and click G, I just create an issue in the GitHub repository that I just told you about when auditing, like any questions, vulnerabilities, whatever. I just write it without going to the GitHub website because again, that's gonna be like context switching. I'm gonna open Chrome. It's at least for me more convenient. So yeah, even EVM codes, I just open Raycast and insert them there, trying to utilize it as much as possible. And the clipboard history is huge. So yeah, that's pretty much about Raycast. Let me think about what else. I used to do is to run my life. Another to a Telegram for communication with customers, Discord, of course. I use Typefully to schedule my tweets. VS Code, we talked about that. Miro and Coda. That's pretty much it, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. And you post quite often. How do you manage to consistently get new idea for blog posts and write them out while doing security and having your job?
It's actually very easy if you don't if today you sit down and you're be like, what I'm gonna write about, is there something that is gonna be interesting for the people or the audience is gonna like, then you're gonna be in big trouble. It's gonna take you a lot of time. What I usually do is I told you about Coda. So there I have a table that looks like drafts. So I'm just gonna open it and like see some of my drafts right now. So it's gonna make sense for you. So what's a Merkle tree? How to land so audit deals? What is a bridge and how it works? All of these are like something that I thought about at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm maybe gonna write about it. I have a few hot takes, USDT history. I mean, what it's a 200 rows list, right? So when I just wanna generate any content, I just look at that draft and it's like toads that I probably collected some stuff when I was researching, for example, about BRC20, just another example. So I just opened that and it's something that I already thought about and something that I find interesting. I never curate content, and I'm going to repeat that, never curate content that could be interesting for somebody. It's first and foremost interesting for me, and apparently just people are interested in that too, so that's very nice. But except for rare occasions that I wrote content for somebody else, I've never like written a blog post or a thread with the intention of thinking it could be that's gonna go viral. Except for the start, when I was doing these find the bug challenges, it was just I was just starting at Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, I need to do that every single day because that's what works. Nothing else works. So yeah, I spent just to wrap this up. I spent no more like than 35 minutes a day generating any kind of content. And just to be fair, the last month I barely generated any content because I just don't feel about it, and I don't force myself. You need to do that. You need to post 2 times a day. You need to post. I didn't even write a newsletter blog post the last 1 month. I just don't feel about it, and yeah, I think that's the most pure and honest answer I could get about this.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's a great way to approach it because we as security researchers, we have a lot of questions that we have to answer on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So if you can just harness some of those and write about them as you would anyway to
Yeah.
figure out whatever you need to figure out, it's an easy way to get some content.
Yep.
And obviously that takes some time, writing the content itself, plus doing the audits, and you also have a full-time job. So how do you manage your time? Like, do you have any techniques for time optimization, for doing focus work?
Yeah. Gonna go through that. But just a disclaimer before that, because I think that's fair, because I have experience in writing notes and stuff for myself for the past 2 or 3 years. I wrote about a lot of stuff for myself. So that's not something that I just learned along the way the last 3, 4 months. Most of my blog posts, I wrote them like literally for and I didn't go of them, sorry, for no more than 1 hour, right? I had it outlined before that, and I just followed the flow when writing it. So if you are just getting started writing, do not expect the same. Do not expect like to like it. You're gonna overthink it. You're gonna be like, is somebody gonna like that? So yeah, I just want to make that clear so people are not too harsh with themselves. Yeah, about managing time, I told you about Todoist. I use, and again, I went through a lot of approaches, a lot of stuff. So what I do today is I have a document which is called Life OS, which stands for like Life Operational System, and I just have three tables there, like my schedule, AM, PM, and like some stuff that I need to do on each day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then I have three types of priorities: priority one, priority two, priority three. I'm just going to give you some examples. Let's say priority one is going to be audit, retrospective on a contest. I'm just going to keep it on topic, like for our, like I won't go like with other stuff that's not related to security. And then priority two could be like take a look at emails, read a newsletter, reply to Twitter messages, or open Twitter at all, like to take a look at notifications. And priority three could be like plan tomorrow, go through to-do chores. And like these are just examples. I have like, I think, 10 of each priorities. So every evening I I just open my calendar. I look at the day. For example, AM, I have to do audits. I have to, do something at work. I have to do a third thing. So I just open the calendar and block like 2 hours for that priority. But the thing is that each priority has like a bucket in my Todoist. So, for example, today I was writing a newsletter for 30 minutes. That's a dumb example because I don't do that, but I think it's an easy one. And that's a priority to topic. So, today I'm just going to outline, or I'm just going to think about what I'm going to write. So, once I'm done with what I'm doing, I'm in the flow, right? I know what I need to do tomorrow. But if I don't make tasks for that in the Todoist bucket, tomorrow when I get into that, I won't know what I need to do. I'm going to have to spend like 20 minutes again to get in the flow and the context again. So that's why pretty much anything that comes to my mind, and even dumb stuff like buy milk, buy bread, call somebody, reply to somebody. I'm just looking at my to-dos right now. Buy tickets for Dev Connect, apply for a speaker for TrustX, anything. I mean, anything is like in the bucket, in its respective bucket. So when I'm doing whatever that bucket is related about, let's say chores, in that I have booked 30 minutes about, I don't do anything else. Like it's just one single thing, nothing else. So I think that's, at least for a person like me who likes to go overboard, procrastinate a lot, that helps me to these 30 minutes, that's what you're gonna do and nothing else. So I think that's critical and vital in making me able to manage different things. And I still have my bad moments. The last 2 weeks have been very rough for me. I went completely off with all my planning and stuff because I was in Paris, then I was in Greece, and when I get out of my routine, it's taking me some time to get back to it. So yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. No one is 100% like on track all the time. We all have things that come with us, just life in general. It's really hard to keep a perfect streak on productivity.
yeah,
I think it's impossible. So would you say that being a big procrastinator is what helped you to craft like the system
yeah,
to help you like get things done on proper time?
yeah. I mean, I figured a lot of people are like systems kill your creativity and stuff like that. That could be true. That could be true. But for me, it's just the only way I could operate. I have priority allocation, day specifics. Monday, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. Friday, I need to wake up at 4:30 because I need to do something at 9:30. And if I don't write that down, believe me or not, I'm going to forget it. I'm just going to be like, whatever. But when I write it down and I see it when I'm planning, another dumb example could be Saturday I wake 3:30 because Saturday is supposed to be day off for me. So I wake up super early. I do work through until like 10 a.m. and then I spend time with my family. I wake super early so I could like get stuff done while my kids and my wife are sleeping. If I don't write that down, maybe Friday I'm gonna like whatever. I mean, tomorrow is I'm probably gonna wake up like 5 a.m. instead of 3:30, which is a super weird, but that's how my brain works. That's how it is.
Yeah, that's super crazy actually.
Yeah.
But whatever works for you, it's what works for you.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and thinking this guy is crazy,
Yeah.
well, this guy is not you.
Yeah.
So just do whatever works for you.
Yeah.
And I think that helps a lot of like adjusting your trajectory in order to keep progress. Because if you have everything down pat or like what you need to do at a certain time, how much time you could spend in a task, and just always reorganize things as things show up.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me to like a related question, like how did you adjust your approach and keep track of your progress through all of this?
Yeah. I just that question makes me realize I missed an application that I use timing. It's I track my time like as I'm working in a service company and my boss all wants me to track every single second I spend on whatever. So I try. So two things: I track my efforts, my time, and I journal a lot. For example, I have a daily note. The daily note is going to be like morning thoughts, nightly thoughts, just reflecting like how do I feel today, how I feel when I finish the day, am I happy with myself? So I use these notes one time a week. Each Saturday is my Saturday morning is my personal reflection routine, let's say that way. I just go through the week and observe my feelings and thoughts at the time because usually I don't know about you, but like about a Saturday, I pretty much forgot how I felt about on, let's say, Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday. I'm just like that. When I wake up, for me, it's a completely new day. No questions asked about yesterday. I could be in very bad mood yesterday, but today I wake up like a new person. Life is way better. So I just take a look at that and make that helps me make a good retrospective of how am I really doing instead of how do I feel I'm doing on Saturday, because I'm very harsh with myself. I try to optimize for a lot of stuff, which leads to like constant optimizations, let's say, which are it's not a good thing to be super harsh on you. So that's how I reflect and improve on my mood and well-being. How do I keep up with and optimize with, let's say, I allocate 1 hour for audits, right? How do I know I actually spend 1 hour on audits? I use timing, which is an application for Mac again, and I have like separate projects there. C4 scouting, audit like Chainlink, just an example, content generation. So all of that gets into my Coda, all my documents, and then I have a dashboard which kind of shows me how much time I spend on what, and I compare that with what I actually allocated. And if it didn't work out as I expected, I'm just asking questions: why? What happened? Did I just feel bad? It was just a bad day? But I try not to like kick myself because I have a very bad habit of doing that, and it gets very bad when it happens for too long. So, and
Yeah, I think
maybe last thing
I
is
think
like
the
I just try. a lot of new stuff. I'm open to trying anything new I see and experiment with it and waste some time to see if it's good enough.
I think the weekly reflection is really cool. I think people would get a lot out of that. I thought about doing it before, but I just always lose track of it.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is key. I could go further. So I have like weekly reflection too. I have quarterly reflection. I have monthly reflection. I have like my daily template looks like I have 3 focus goals for today. I need to do one, two, three. That's if I do that, the day is good. I have focus goals for the week. For example, I need to audit X. I need to write one thread. I'm just pulling off stuff. Outline a thread, outline a newsletter, write a newsletter. These are the goals for the week. And then the goals for the quarter. I'm just again gonna pull whatever arbitrary examples.
Hmm.
Reach 10,000 subscribers, make 3 audits, go to the gym 5 times a week instead of 4, spend quality instead of quantity time with kids and wifey.
I was gonna ask. I'm not sure if there's a good way to do it, but if you're open to, I think it would be really cool if you would like share one of the organization templates you have on Quora or like any other apps. I think
Will
that would
do.
be
Will do.
interesting. Yeah,
Will do. Never thought somebody might be interested actually, but I sounds good. We'll do it.
awesome. And when you're doing contests, obviously you always have to choose between what contests you want to do. So, what are the criteria that you take in consideration?
My answer is gonna be something that I've never done so far because I know what's the right decision. It's though I've never in the past. I think it's where August, July, John. I think it's yeah. I haven't done that in 3 months. But if I'm gonna pick a contest, I'm probably gonna pick something that is smaller because, for example, Tapioca or Maya Dao could have very good rewards, but I'd rather not invest myself for 1 month in a single audit. I like to go through different stuff, at least for now. I mean, I have the luxury of saying no and doing whatever I want. So I'd rather do, let's say, more than one audit for that month. But at least for me, the primary factor would be something that had previous audits or is like a very good written protocol. I would, yeah, probably go with that. I wouldn't go with, let's say Rubicons. I don't want to, put them on the spot, but I think they had like 1,000 issues. Just dilutes the reward and makes the reading and the retrospective after that very tough, which is something I do not like. I mean, when I see a lot of like vulnerabilities that I know everybody else is gonna find, common sense is like ignore them. But I'm gonna add that to the report because of course it's gonna be like +1. But then I cannot just ignore it. So I'd rather have something that is more structured, potentially more tough. Potentially I get nothing. If I get something, it's gonna be huge.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach and definitely a valid one because more and more when you see like an unsafe transfer, it's a waste of time to report that, but at the same time, you don't want to lose the habit to report important findings.
Yeah,
So it's a two-edged sword, I guess.
yeah,
And besides increasing your skills, doing contests can also be a good way to build a brand. And you have one post about building a brand. So what do you mean when you say building a brand? What is your vision for building a brand? What are
yeah,
you trying to achieve with those blog posts and like doing contests?
yeah. Awesome question. Thank you. So, how do I feel about it? So, I don't want to build a company. I don't want to hire somebody to work for me. I don't want that. Or like build let's say a DAO for audits. I don't want to do that. I don't want to manage people for and have them do work for me. I could, for example, work with you on a project, and then we just part ways until the next project, and then we split evenly. That's one thing. But I don't want to, for example, manage you. You work for me. So that's I how I feel about the brand is my name, right? So people are gonna know Bytes for what he's doing, and they could reach out to him for an audit, for advice, getting started, whatever they want. It's going to be just a name that's going to be recognized as a single person. Like, I'm going to try to build a niche around me instead of following the classic niche. I can give you a good example of building niche is, instead of everybody, a lot of people have thought about, I want to do a security company, right? That's a niche. That's something that's a way that a, a, a dozen people or dozens have already went through. I'd rather have my way of experimenting and doing things on my own and sharing stuff as I go and build that brand. That's what I mean by brand. Maybe the better word is a niche, but like it could also, you could also think about it as a community too. Like connect with like-minded people and network with like-minded people, and like eventually when sharing what I know, because I legitimately share pretty much most of the stuff I know, I believe like customers, that's why clients are gonna seek to work with me, even if it's for an audit. Or like I've answered like I'll answer for free a lot of DMs in Twitter. Is that the best way of doing X, Y, or Z? I don't want to monetize every single piece of that. I like being involved, and that's part of the brand. I think Sam from Paradigm, he's a very good example of brand, right? He's working for Paradigm, but he's a brand for what he's doing. So I think that's, without ranting too much because I could continue. I think that's
You can continue.
oh,
I'm happy to
okay.
hear more about it. Yeah.
Okay. So what I most love about having your own brand is like, for example, the next 3 years, I could love security, right? I could like, I love it right now, but for example, in the fourth year, I could be like, I want to just build now. I want to write code 20 hours, 12 hours a day, right? And I can shift all I've did before to that, right? It's gonna, my previous experience, my previous knowledge, my previous audience, my previous name, I'm gonna carry that into the next thing that I do. So that's invaluable. And I think with years, that's something that compounds a lot. It's completely different to scaling a career and getting the next promotion. If you're doing that with intent about the future and something that could be in like 10 years, eventually you're going to get a powerhouse. The key thing here is, do you really want to do that? I mean, it's taking a lot of time, and it's not a 9 to 5 job. I don't take days off. I Before Paris, in the DeFi Security Summit, I had a baby. My second child came in April. I took 10 days off, and from then on I didn't have a single day off until mid-July. If you want to do if you don't want to do that, ask your question. I mean, yeah, do you really want to do that? So yeah, pretty much I look at something for the future. I'm acquiring skills that are interesting to me at the time. I'm fine with always learning new stuff. I'm fine with spending time on things that might waste my time from one perspective. But from my perspective, I'm becoming a jack of all trades on steroids, right? Because I could do end to end pretty much the whole stuff. I mean, stuff is probably the wrong word. The whole set of things that I would need to sell a product, sell a service, or educate somebody for free. I could market, I could write, I could speak, I could do work. So yeah, I may sound, I don't know, too futuristic, but at some point when I'm fed up with working, I would probably just I just want to spend time kind of helping people realize their potential. I just need to have the financial comfort. I needed that when I was younger, so I would appreciate if somebody is there to do that for me without thinking how he could monetize me. So yeah, we just talked about Brown about security, but you could see how it flows out into so many directions that are basically my interests. I'm interested in psychology. I'm interested in spirituality and kind of, I wouldn't say too much religion, but yeah, spirituality as a whole. I'm interested in writing. I'm interested in politics. I'm interested in reading. I don't write about that, but it shapes who I am. So one way or another, it's part of my brand. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a very good way to approach life in general, thinking long term and building yourself in that perspective. Definitely pays off more dividends than trying to get as much money as you can by monetizing everything in the moment. So I think that's a great approach to do things, especially if you have the discipline and the skills to go with it as well.
Um, any skill is obtainable if you are fine going through the misery and suffering to obtain it. When I was starting writing, I was absolutely the best writer you could ever see. I've never written an essay in my life. I was the worst writer in school, and yeah, I just sucked at that. I just spent months grinding through it. So anybody can do anything, I think, if he wants to.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of anybody doing anything, we have a lot of very, let's say, talented security researchers, very people that are very good at this craft. Is there anyone in particular that you look up to the most, or any favorite exploit or bug report you've read, like something that made you really appreciate someone or their skill?
Let me think about it. I think my favorite exploit is the I think he had 8 million from Immunify. I think that's my favorite one because I think it was Moon River on the Polkadot system, something related to that. I think what I loved about it is the guy was like, "No, I didn't have a lot of experience before that. I'm coming from Web2 security, and I just applied what I know there." He could be like, "I studied DVM for 5 years before that. I prepared whatever." He was just completely honest, and the vulnerability is like very you could see it in today in 2023 it could be obvious, but then when he found it, it was a very delicate thing. And Riptide's arbitrums finding is very nice too. I just like stuff like that where we really have to dive deep or and have a little bit of work to be there, like life work, I mean. So yeah, these are my kind of these types are my favorite. If I have to pick one person, I'm probably gonna pick. Let me think. It's tough. I'm
Yeah,
unprepared.
it's a tough question.
Yeah, I'm unprepared. But I think so. I think even though I didn't have the time to speak with him, I was just completely bombarded by the fact that apparently everybody wanted to speak with me. And I mean, and not everybody, but a lot of people wanted to speak with me on DeFi security summit, and I didn't have time to speak with him specifically. I think the person that I look up the most is Tincho. I just love what they are doing, like the securing Ethereum for the public good. That's a tough thing to do. I mean, you're pretty much sacrificing a lot of, let's say, I'm just gonna discount money completely because they're sacrificing a lot of money. That's the first thing, but they're literally doing that because they care, and that's probably the thing that is enough for me to put him in the top for me. And again, unfortunately, I was like, I want to meet these guys. I didn't, but next time. It's weird that I look up to them, but I didn't mean that I had the chance to. But that's they are like the red guild. The things they are doing absolutely the top for me. And from now on, I mean, a lot of people that I admire and I would say literally love what they're doing. Christoph, Leastwood, Hiccup. I mean, all the regular faces there that I probably just recognize. We had some awesome conversations. For example, with 100 Proof in Paris. The funny thing is that with most of them, I didn't have technical conversations, just like wife is wife stuff, which I loved. And with Alex too, trust a lot him talking about how his life so far, Israel, etc. So yeah, pretty much the people I admire in security, I'm realizing I probably don't really admire them just for their security work or like the other stuff that's just part of them too. Dravee, for example, that guy literally gave me a lot of confidence, helped me a lot in me being a security researcher today. Saying that I admire him won't be because yeah, he's part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today, just because he was there when I had dumb questions to ask, when I just needed some help, somebody to speak with, like literally my only Web3 security friend. So it's
Yeah,
just the question that is, I mean, the way the question is phrased, like admiring security because they like have awesome skills. Yeah, even he has awesome skills, and he helped me learn a lot of stuff. But I pretty much admire him for a lot of other stuff primarily too. If that
yeah.
makes sense.
Dravee, it's a great guy for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I like him a lot as well. And a lot of people, they would love to get in touch with experienced security researchers, but there's only a handful of days, and they can't give out their time to everyone equally, right?
yeah.
So, what would you suggest for beginners? How do you think they can put themselves in a position where people are willing to help them?
The security space is super collaborative and helpful. So I think probably in our space it's easier to get in touch with top folks. But I would say that first and foremost, at least for me, when I was trying or when I'm trying to approach somebody, is like ask something with a value. So it would be them to ask, for example, I regularly ask some judges in Code Arena, can you help me understand why is that a medium? Why it's not a critical? But why it's not a QA, for example? Apologies. But I believe that when I'm writing my reports, I spend time on them. They have their level of quality. So if I brought up shitty reports, when I ask somebody that's reviewing my report, he'll be like, "I don't care about you." But when you lead that conversation with value beforehand, you are more likely to get an answer. First thing, and the second thing is do not ask stuff that is commonly available. I think that's very important. If you want to be a security researcher, you don't know how to get started, just gonna be honest, maybe it's not the right field for you. And the third thing is just be authentic, be yourself. Do not send compliments or do not show interest in somebody just for the sake of doing that. You could do that. I mean, you could try to get an answer without doing these things just from the securium mentors channels. A lot of people they are answering questions. Awesome security researchers and a lot of people that are just gonna, I mean, names in the space, right? That's pretty much enough. So yeah, if you're not authentic, I think everybody is gonna figure out on the spot. So and that, given we're not a big community, I think it's pretty much done for you, at least for the relationship with that specific person. I just have a very sensitive shit sense, and I kind of sense that very far away from Twitter messages. So could not be the case with somebody else, but at least for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good message. I think it makes sense. You have an anonymous brand,
Yeah,
so to speak.
yeah.
You're not like other people in the space, like let's say see Michelle, which has their name on display. So I guess my question is, why are you anonymous, and why do you choose to remain anonymous?
Just one thing before that, I think Christoph has an anon. He mentions that on his blog, so point to consider. Um, yeah, so I started as anon for one specific reason. Where I work at, I very much feel the people that I work with like my family. I mean, we've worked in various companies together. So when I was getting started with security, I was just very, fed up with my job. But I couldn't leave, right? I can't be like, fuck off, I'm leaving, because I know for sure there are going to be consequences in the company because we're not a big company. So I was like, I'm gonna start as an anon for that first, and second because I was like, I'm not sure if I wanna. It's gonna be contradicting, right? I'm gonna contradict myself right now, but I was like, I'm not sure if I wanna let them know I'm doing something else because I was prejudging stupidly that, for example, nobody is going to be like, oh, he's working in the morning instead. I was assuming, even though we have a very good relationship, I was assuming like they're going to be like, oh, he's swacking, he's not working, and that's why he's doing that. Because it's hard to believe until you see it with your eyes that somebody could, for example, wake up at 4 a.m. to do something before his job and then work his job at full capacity. So that's the primary reason I did that. Today, 11th of August, they know that, so it's off to my chest. It's fixed. But yeah, that's the main reason why I keep it like that today. Before Paris, I didn't realize the or didn't I discounted the fact that Twitter could potentially, I mean, I discounted the fact that I have like 10,000 followers. For me that's nothing. I mean, I see people with 100,000, 1 million, whatever, but just because our space is in Paris, the I didn't attend the third day because the second day I lost my voice, I got sick, but I had a lot of people like, hey, is that you? And I love that they love me, like I appreciate that, don't take me wrong, but when you are out there with your face, it's just tough. At least for me, I'm that type of person. I like to take things one step at a time, and it just, if I show up with my face everywhere, the next time I go, everybody is gonna be aware. Whereas on the other hand, right now they're gonna figure anyway because a lot of people know me already, but it's gonna be like more slow and steady, right? So yeah, I think these two are the only reasons. I mean, I'm doxed. A lot of people know where I am, my name, even the city I live in, how I look, right? So I'm not unknown anymore. Just like a pseudonym, let's say.
Do you think there are pros to being fully doxxed and having your face out there? Like, what would you say are the pros and cons to having it being anonymous versus being not anonymous?
Oh, we've spoke about that in Paris. I think, especially with huge bounties. If I find a huge bounty, I would probably not submit it with my handle. That's for sure. Especially where I live in, I wouldn't submit it like with my face and with my name. So yeah, it very much like except for that, I don't think there are any cons. Like in what I've mentioned previously, like everybody knowing you in something that's part of your personality. It's just that I cannot say no. Somebody, even if I share the same story with 20 people before you, if you come and like, oh, is that you, Bytes? I like you, I like your work. I'm gonna try, even no matter how tired I am, I'm gonna do my best to treat you with the respect and time that I spent for everybody before you. So that's exhausting. It just takes time and energy, and it's mentally tough. So especially in huge meetups, that's tough. At least I felt it tough this time. So beside these two, I don't know if there are any other cons. And pros to being a non, if you're a real anon though, and you wanna shit post on Twitter, and a lot of I know, not a lot of, but I know plenty of bounties also need KYC. So getting that money with being completely anon is still uh, probably at least immunifies you want to know who you are. So yeah, I would say that probably the biggest pro for being anon is hiding huge wad of money and being able to, if you want to do that, shit on everybody on Twitter without caring. They know who you are. If you want to do that, maybe it's a stupid take, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a stupid take. I think these are very valid points, especially the bounties or just in general high earners. Because I think there's pros to not being anonymous, as in just being recognizable has this like a good effect.
Yeah,
Like it's probably easier for you to go and talk to certain people in certain events. Let's say Tincho knew who you are, but at the same time, you don't want to be seen as a target. Like, oh yeah, I made like
yeah,
$1 gazillion this year. Come and take my money.
yeah. I actually like the. It's just part of I. It's just part of who I am. But I like having the luxury to, like, for example, if I didn't know you, but I saw you, if you haven't met each other, but for example, I see you somewhere and I know that's you, I like having the luxury of taking a few breaths first and like then I come to you, hey, I'm Bytes, instead of, oh, my man, if we meet first time.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well because it lets you see people for who they are.
Yeah,
If you're if they just think you're some random guy and then they treat you nice, then you know they're nice.
yeah,
But if they just look at you and then scoff to you, you're like, oh,
yeah,
I'm not sure if that person is someone I actually want to hang out with.
yeah. I mean, it's the harsh truth.
Well, it's been a pleasure having the chat with you, and I'm excited to see things you do in the future and how you continue to build a brand and help people in the space, man.
Likewise, I had an awesome time speaking with you. I liked the nature of feeling about it, of it. So I still appreciate it for having me. Thank you.